This is the Wild and Fearless podcast. Join Bec Fox, renowned business leader, coach, and avid adventurer, and go inside the hearts and minds of ordinary women doing extraordinary things. Wild and Fearless, women inspiring legendary dreams.
Hi, and welcome back to another fantastic Wild and Fearless podcast and channel. We've got the amazing rock star, Casey Wright. Some of you may not know who she is, but let me tell you, she is absolutely extraordinary. She's just returned home from the Winter Olympics and she's been representing Australia on a number of worldwide platforms, but most recently in China, competing for Australia and doing really wonderful in a sport that is not well known to many people. It's called Nordic skiing and cross-country skiing. So welcome, Casey. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on our show today.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
You are so bubbly and so bright, and it's wonderful to have you in the studio today. And I love the fact that you're in your beautiful yellow and your colours. Can you explain what you're wearing today and what you've got on?
Yeah, I've actually got, this is our media jacket, which we had in Beijing at the Winter Olympics. So thought I may as well get some more use out of it while I can.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Now, for all the viewers who are tapping in today and they have no idea what cross-country skiing is, would you like to explain what it is?
Yeah, so cross-country skiing is that type of skiing where we go up the hills, down the hills, and on the flats. So we don't take chairlifts up to the top. We ski our way up to the top and ski basically cross-country. So we kind of point ourselves in a direction and go where there's snow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what I find fascinating about your sport. It takes an enormous amount of endurance. It's like the marathon of any event in the Winter Olympics, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So we do have the longest event of the Winter Olympics. So for the women, that's a 30-kilometre event, and then for the men, that's a 50-kilometre. So, and those races can take anywhere up to an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to compete, really depending on what the weather and snow conditions are like. So, in order to be able to compete and train and race for that long, we have to do quite a bit of training. And so, each year we're doing around 700 to 900 hours of training. Some of the top men in the world will be pushing 1,000 hours of training a year. So,
wow.
Spending a lot of time building up our aerobic bases and doing lots of stuff in the gym as well to make sure we've got that strength. So, definitely not just definitely have to commit to it if it's what you want to do.
Oh, absolutely. And it's incredible, isn't it? Because Nordic skiing or cross-country skiing is a great event to do recreationally anyway. It's a really nice, affordable way to get out on the snow because you're not paying for lift passes, but it does take a huge amount of endurance. It is a marathon of all things. I would love you to explain to our listeners, because I've been a follower of yours and I'm in awe of what you do, and I'm also a cross-country skier, so I understand how challenging it is and how difficult it is, and just getting the flow and the motion and the fitness is just incredible. So what I'd love you to talk about is the fact that you and the other team members on the Nordic skiing team, you weren't there just for a week of the Olympics, you were there for the whole duration because you didn't have just one competition. You had how many? 4 different races you had to attend? Is that right? So firstly, yes, I was there for the whole time. In the end, I ended up being in Beijing for 21 days, I think. So, it was quite a long time to be there, especially in that environment, because it is a high pressure environment to be a part of. Cross-country skiing actually has 6 medal events within it. And one of them is a relay. So you need 4 individuals from each gender to compete. And unfortunately, we only had 2 women on the team, so we weren't able to start a team in the relay. And then I opted not to race in the first event, which was the skiathlon, because I prefer the shorter distances. And so my focus of the games was on the sprint. And that was only a couple of days after the skiathlon. So I made the choice to sit out the skiathlon, and so I could focus on the sprint. But then I did all the races after that we were able to start. Yeah, fantastic. And can you explain those races, because they're quite epic? And I know, watching you through the whole Olympic campaign, the weather was absolutely shocking. You had beautiful blue skies and you had all the blizzards. Tell the listeners exactly the days that you competed and what you did. It's quite incredible. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the first race of the Olympic campaign was the skiathlon. So this is not one that I competed in, but it is quite an interesting event. So in cross-country skiing, we have two techniques. So we have one which you might think of as like walking on skis. So we call that one classic, and your skis stay nice and straight, like parallel train tracks. And then we have skating, which is what you might think of like ice skating, and we make that V shape and use this movement. So so there's two different types, and typically in a race you'll either do classic or you'll do skate, but in the skiathlon they like to put them both together and you do both. So you start off doing classic, and for the women you do a 7.5 kilometre loop, for the men you do a 15 kilometre loop, and then halfway you switch your skis and your poles, and then you continue out and finish the rest of the race in skate with a similar with the same distance loop, so a 7.5 kilometre for the women and a 15 kilometre for the men. So that's the skiathlon. The next race, which was my first event, was the sprint. So this is the shortest event of the cross-country skiing events. In this one, it's about 1.5 kilometres long. It takes around 3.5 minutes, depending on what kind of course and what kind of snow conditions are like. And this one, everyone goes off on a 15-second interval. So, we go off one after another, and that's all ranked based on our ranking points. And then from there, the top 30 finishes, the top 30 times, they progress through to the finals. So unfortunately, I didn't make it through to the finals. So my day finished after that first time trial. And then 30 of the top 30 men and women got to progress through to the heats, and there the top two finishers keep progressing until the end. So although it is our shortest event, if you are having a good day and you're progressing through, by the end of the day you're going to have raced that course 5 times, and the time between each time you race gets shorter and shorter. So it's definitely not an easy day. And in other events where I have made sprint finals, I'm skiing upwards of 25 to 30 kilometres in that day, even though I might only be racing for 10 minutes, in total for the whole day. So
and you're burning too. You're not going slowly. You're burning every time you're out there on the skis. You're pushing yourself to the limit.
Yeah, pretty much skiing as hard as you can each time. Yep. And then so after that we had a few days to recover, and then we had the 10 kilometre classic race. So again, this was a different technique. So we had to, we have two sets we have our skate fleet of skis and our classic fleet of skis. So I was on my classic fleet for the 10 kilometre. In this race, we go off on 30-second intervals. And again, we're putting to a ranking list at the start. And then it's based on time. So whoever has the quickest time is the winner at the end of the day. So this race was complete on a 5 kilometre course. So we did 2 laps of that. And it was a pretty brutal course. It's probably one of the hardest courses I've ever raced on, especially at a championship level. So the Chinese made sure that the courses were quite challenging. They weren't technically challenging. We just had lots of uphills. So I don't really know how it was possible, but for the entire 5 kilometres, it felt like I was skiing
You're going uphill. Isn't there a rule that what goes up must come down, but you just didn't feel like there was no down, hey?
It just didn't feel like we ever came down. You keep skiing, and then you go like on a tiny downhill, then there'll be another monster uphill in front of you. So, I think, that race was televised, and I think I ended up getting a little bit of airtime on that one, and you might have seen me kind of fall over at the end of that. So, at the top of that final hill, I was kind of so deep in the hurt box, I wasn't sure if I was going to pass out or throw up, and thankfully neither of those happened. But that was the kind of feeling I was having going through my body. So,
and of course, that would be the time that you go live. Yep.
Yeah, it would be great. Everyone gets to see that. So, And then for us, for the Australians, anyway, we actually got about 5 days off in that period between the next races, because we didn't have a relay team. So in that time, there were the relay events, but you need four races from each gender to compete. So for the women, we only had 2 females, so we weren't able to compete. And then our men, although we did have 4 males on the Australian team, they decided not to race because we have in cross country they have what's called the lapping rule, whereas if you're lapped by the leaders, you actually get pulled out of the race, so you're not allowed to finish. So the boys did some calculations and decided that they didn't want to race, so that was their choice. But it gave Jess and I, who was the other female with me, some time to recover and then prepare for the team sprint. So that's the second team event for cross-country skiing. And in this one, we're on the same course as we were for that first sprint event, except this time we do it together. So what happened is Jess was our first skier, so she would ski a lap and then she'd tag off to me, I'd ski a lap, and then we do that 3 times each. So it's basically skiing as hard as you can with approximately 3 minutes break in between, and doing that 3 times. So there's a lot of lactic acid going through the system in that race.
I reckon. And what a team you both are. Like, you two are just championing each other all the way. You could see that on all the social media platforms. You and her just got along so well and were just having such a great time together. It was so good to see.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like, Jess and I did our first team sprint together back at the World Championships in 2015 in Falun, Sweden. And so, that was the first time we raced internationally. I think both of us, that was our first major international competition. And then to kind of be able to come full circle and then do the team sprint together at these games was really, really special. And, we spend a lot of time overseas and traveling. And so I think, we'd been sharing a room for basically 4 months at that point. So we do get really close and do build up those, relationships and friendships, and just to be able to share a race like that with her, and to get the result we did, we got a really good result. And so just to be able to share that with my, with a teammate in a relatively individual sport is just really special.
Oh, how magic. And is that one of your PBs? I know you cracked a lot of PBs on the last Olympics. Was that one of your PBs?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was definitely at one of our top results. So we finished 16th out of 22 nations. So,
right.
Obviously we weren't in contention for winning a medal, but to achieve that result, we were really happy with, considering that we are one of the smaller cross country nations in that world of in that world of sport. So it was really, really special day to be able to share that with Jess.
Oh, how magic, how magic. And then you had a few more days off, didn't you? And then blizzards, of course, then came in, as we all remember, seeing that shocking, horizontal, sweeping, just blinding ice called snow. How did you get on then? How was your psyche, and how did you get up the next day and say, rightio, we're going to grit and bear this, because it was a massive event and you had the worst weather possible, didn't you?
So as you said, we had a few days off, and then we go into our biggest event of the day, so of the campaign. So that was the 30-kilometre classic for the females and the 30-kilometre skate for the females and the 50-kilometre skate for the men. So the men were actually racing the day before us, and Jess and I were out skiing that morning, just doing our pre-race ski, which is what we do the day before the race. So we were testing some skis, checking out the course, and just getting the body, trying to make sure it's awake and ready to race the next day. And it was probably some of the most brutal weather we've ever skied in that morning, and we're both like, we're not sure how we're going to make it through this. And then so for the men's race, they actually decided to shorten their 50K down to 28 kilometres. And so that's how far the boys ended up racing that afternoon.
Wow.
But it was kind of amazing. It just kind of hit about 12 o'clock, and then the wind just stopped, and the weather wasn't ideal, but it really wasn't as bad as what it had been. And then so we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen with our race, because they changed what was happening with the men. So we didn't know what was going to happen with us. And then about 7:30 that night, we got the call that our race was still going to be 30 kilometres, except instead of racing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're now racing at 11. So that meant we kind of had to change things around a bit to make sure that we're going to be, A, awake
ready
in time, and B, going to be at the course on time as well. So, that was through a little bit of a spanner in the works, but, as the last event of the games, at that point, you're just like, that's okay, just bring it on. Like, we've made it this far, we can make it through this one. So
I love that. Bring it on. I love it. Yep. Weather or anything. Yep. Time changes. Yep. Bring it on. We'll be there.
Absolutely. So we got out there and the women ended up skiing 30 kilometres. So we skied 2 extra K than the boys.
Yay!
So that was a nice little rub it in. Really lucky to have the Australian boys come out and cheer for us on course that day, and they were both saying like, oh, your weather was so much worse than ours yesterday. So that was like a bit of a empowering moment, like, the girls can ski further, in worse conditions. So
and you did it. You absolutely smashed it too, didn't you?
Yeah, so made it through. It was definitely probably one of the more challenging races I've been a part of, and definitely had to dig with everything I had and use everything. And my goal was that not to kind of die or not to cramp, and especially when you're racing, that race took me 1:45 to finish, so that is a long time, and in the weather that we had,
Sure,
I think it was, the air temperature was -11, and then with wind chill it was down to about -30. So it was definitely challenging conditions out there. But to cross that finish line and to know that I had given it everything I could was really all I could ask for on that day.
Oh, how exhilarating! And how do you? And a huge congratulations! I'm sure everyone who's listening to this going, "Oh my goodness, how do you push through that?" Like, just even getting out of bed and starting at that start line is a champion effort, and then to finish and to push through all that pain and that hurt box that you spoke about earlier. How do you do it when what's going through your mind? Your body's falling apart, your lactic acid is going through the roof, your body's screaming at you. How do you keep pushing on? It's just incredible. Love you to share.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe I'm like one of those, weird people who enjoys putting myself in those situations and seeing how much I can make myself hurt, like mentally and physically. For me, I think it's all about the challenge, and for us, we do a lot of training, and we try to prepare ourselves as best as possible, so that when we are in those situations, you don't even think about it, you just do it. And and for me, it's like, well, what other option do I have? It's the weather. Well, everyone's having to deal with that, so like, nothing I can do about that. And I'm hurting, but so is everyone else. So I can either kind of sit down here and curl up in a ball on the side of the course, or I can just just put my head down and keep going and get to that finish line as soon as I can, and then I can fall in a heap and we'll deal with this later. But in the moment, I don't know. I just think, I just put my head down and just kind of embrace it and just keep going.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. And a lot of people wouldn't even know what that pain is like, How many people are out there listening now and thinking, I've never actually really pushed myself to that and beyond that pain threshold. And that's what you did. And you do it all the time in training, I imagine. But when you're out there on that stadium and that worldwide stage and competing for Australia, does it give you that extra push to go, you know what, I've got this. I'm going to do this even better than I have done before?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as I said, like, we do a lot of training, and for me, like, in particular, like, these last 4 years have been solely focused on these Olympics, and especially the last 2 years with COVID, it actually meant that I wasn't able to go overseas between 2020 and 2021 summer, like that summer period. I didn't make it over for that winter. And so, to miss out on basically 2 years of racing, that is really challenging. But, to all that effort and all that work that I'd been doing was for that moment. And it's, and that's why you do it. And I think when you're at that point, it doesn't really matter how much it's hurting or how uncomfortable you are. It just gives that extra special moment. And particularly, unfortunately, my parents and family weren't able to be over in China watching, and that was definitely a really special moment in Pyeongchang, having them there. But to know that everyone was at home and cheering and supporting us, and all the support I'd gotten over the many years I've been competing, it's that's what it's all about. And just to know that you have that group of people behind you supporting you is just gives that extra push that you need to get over the finish line.
Oh, absolutely. And we're all back here in our very comfortable lounge rooms cheering you on, without a doubt. And you did, I know you put out there on the social media, like, thank you so much for all your messages. It must mean a lot to all of you. And when you just know that you have so much support from complete strangers, and everyone's just going, yay, we've got you, we're watching you, we're keeping your dream alive, we're here, we're cheering you on. Because that's what we're doing back here in Australia and all around the world, no doubt. So, yeah.
actually been like humbling, the amount of support we've received, particularly in these games. I think this is probably the first time that cross country skiing has been given a little bit of spotlight, and I think the access that we had this season, these games, to watch events as well. Often in the past Winter Olympics, you kind of just had to watch whatever was on TV, which often wasn't cross country skiing. So for people to have that opportunity now to actually watch and maybe to see what I do, because it's not really something that many people, even friends, like actually see me do. I think they just know that I do this thing, but they maybe don't quite know what it is. And just for them to have that opportunity to watch it and maybe just see how crazy I really am.
I bet a lot of friends are going, what?
Really cool.
Yeah. And it's so good that you can replay. I love it. The way the Olympics was covered was amazing, because you could go and replay and actually look at individual sports. And I think it's still up there on Channel 7 too, on the 7 View. You can still go in there and look at it.
Plus app. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So highly worth it. If you're still listening, if this is 10 years on, no doubt you would have listened and heard about Casey in another Olympics, because your goal is to attend, and I know it's 4 years away, but I'm sure you have some dreams and aspirations to continue on your training and make a third Olympics. Is that right?
Yeah. So I guess at the moment I'm in my kind of post-Olympics slump, whatever you want to call it. The last 4 years I've kind of poured everything into these games, and now is where I kind of take the time to recollect myself, and then start. I've ticked my goals off, so now I need to start writing new goals. So I'm not quite sure what my future looks like at the moment. So I'm not saying no to the next games, but 4 years is a long way away. So, I think I just need to take the time to work out where I want it, what direction I want to head in, and how my body's feeling, how my mind's feeling, and how everything's moving, and just see where the journey takes me.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, you and I have had many conversations before. We've been obviously being recorded, but you fell in love with skiing from a very young age, and that's never going to leave you. So regardless of whether you still compete on an international level and represent Australia, I imagine that love of being out there on the snow and cross-country skiing is never going to die.
No, I will be. Yeah, I'll be skiing every year. Australia's biggest ski race is called the Hoppet, and it's a marathon event, and it's held at Falls Creek on the last Saturday of August every year. And I really hope to be doing that. Basically for as long as I can walk. I'll be skiing that Hoppet. So skiing is one of my passions, and it is really what I love to do. And so even if I'm not racing or competing or whatever, I would definitely still be skiing at any opportunity I get.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I know that it's really interesting life, isn't it, when you're a cross-country skier, because you don't get any financial support at all, which it just blows my mind. I know you've spoken that Oz XC, so Australia cross-country skiing, Peak Body are really supportive, and you have a really great community there and a lot of support. But how can people actually reach out and help you individually? Because I know that you're full-time studying, you live at Falls Creek half the time of the year, so you can get access to snow. You teach, don't you, and coach cross-country and Nordic skiing up at Windy Corner at Falls Creek, is that right?
Yeah. So I work in the ski school, ski hire, and cross-country ski centre at Windy Corner during the winters. So I think this will be my 5th year working there this year. I don't know, they kind of all blend into one.
Yep.
And I'm also finishing up my teaching degree, a postgraduate degree. So, for me, I'm not really good at sitting still. So even when I am training, I like to have other things going on in the background, and I think it really helps keep you grounded and focused. But I am a self-funded athlete. As a small sport, we do have very minimal funding, and if you are interested in anything in cross country skiing, AusXC, AUSXC.com is the Australian cross country ski team website, and it has heaps of information there from who is on the national team, events that are run, and even pathway programs. So if you have any kids that are really interested in trying it out and wondering how to get involved, there's really good resources there that give you some information about some directions you might want to head or look into. yeah, so honestly, like, yeah, we appreciate any support that we're able to get. But I think, best is if you are interested in offering any support, is just to reach out to me on any of my social medias. So whether that's on Facebook or on Instagram, which is kc.wright. So that's spelled with the letter K and the C, so a little bit different.
Yes.
Yeah, so honestly, like any support we really do appreciate, not only for myself, but for the rest of the team. We are all working really hard. I think pretty much every other athlete on the team is at university as well as ski racing, and then some people are working on top of that. So, we are all definitely giving it 100%, 110% in all aspects, and yeah, we're just a bunch of kids that really love to spend time on snow.
And I love your lifestyle too, because we were talking earlier before we recorded again about your lifestyle and how because of course in Australia you don't have snow here all the year round like other countries, and so hey, you do get up there and work in the snow. But the wonderful opportunity of this sport is the massive amount of cross training you do, which is really exciting, isn't it? So do you want to share with the people who are listening and watching what sort of training you do? It's quite amazing.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we do a lot of training, and a lot of that is to help build up a really strong aerobic base, which is kind of our primary energy systems when we're cross-country skiing. So for me, that can take many forms, and often it is doing long sessions. So these sessions can be anywhere from about 3 hours to sometimes up to 6 hours. And for me, like, I really enjoy going on what I call adventure sessions. So it might be that I want to run up Mount Bogong or Mount Feathertop, or I'll go out on my mountain bike, or go and do something that's a little bit different, but that gets me moving, for that kind of time period that we're looking to work in. But yeah, so like, I really enjoy the opportunities that cross-country skiing offers in terms of those cross-training. So yeah, as I mentioned, like mountain running and trail running and mountain biking are really big passions of mine. Also, like, whenever the opportunity presents, I love to go surfing and spend time at the ocean and away from the colder weather. Find some fun when I can, and then do things like swimming. What else? Like, honestly, like the possibilities are endless of the training we can do. So there offers like a lot of variety, which definitely keeps it interesting when we're pushing, like 26 hours of training in a week. You need that mental stimulation
and the variety.
Wanting to head out the door each day.
Well, you're very lucky compared to swimmers who spend a lot of time in the pool doing the same lanes. It's certainly a really exciting sport to get involved in. And also, not to mention, you're out in this incredible wilderness when you're actually out there on the cross-country skis, and whether you're mountain biking or run up hills, you're in the most amazing environment. So you can actually get out there and actually be amongst the alpine, in the alpine environment, and be in complete wilderness. Like the Bogong area and Falls Creek area is a place that's second to none when it comes to wilderness, and you can get away from the ski resorts and away from all the people and all the action, and get out there and be amongst all the beautiful alpine gums and the beautiful mountains that we have up there. So yeah, it's quite an incredible sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably one of my favourite aspects, particularly like skiing in Australia. I've had the opportunity to ski in many countries and in many places around the world, but whenever people ask me, like, where's my favourite place to ski, it really is on the Bogong High Plains and around that Falls Creek area, like particularly in the springtime when we get those perfect crusts and we can literally just point in a direction and go. And there's really nowhere else in the world where I've skied where I've had that experience of kind of freedom, really. And you just look out on the horizon and all you see is snow and blue skies, and you can't really beat that.
Can't beat it. Well, you got me hooked. I've been cross-country skiing for many decades, and I used to use it to get out into wilderness areas and go camping, and I absolutely love it, and I can't express enough. I hope that our listeners are going, wow, it sounds like a really interesting sport, because it is to enter into cross-country skiing, it's a really low cost, and it is very accessible to everyone. You can go up to Lake Mountain, anywhere where there's snow, literally, you can actually get some skis, hire some skis if you need to, and just get out there. It's a fantastic sport and a fantastic way to get out into nature. Yeah. So
yeah, and it's also a really good family activity as well.
True.
It's great for kids of all ages. For me, like, I've basically been on skis since I could walk. And even before that, Mum and Dad used to chuck me in the pack and they'd go out skiing. So really, like as soon as, I was old enough to go to the snow, which was probably like, I don't know, 8 months old, I've been at the snow. So
yeah, so good.
And then as soon as you can walk, just, strap some little skis on.
The skis
those
on.
Gumboots and just send the kids on their way,
You must have some awesome photos from when you were little. I could see your mum and dad doing that.
Some good collections out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's absolutely gold. So for all the listeners out there, Casey, you're an absolute inspiration. What are some messages you'd like to send out to all young girls, women of all ages? Because you can cross-country ski to your last breath. There's a lot of people in their older, in their 90s even skiing still, and it's absolutely fantastic. And you can start at any time. You don't need a level of fitness. You can get out there. If you can walk, basically, you can ski. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
So what would you recommend for the listeners who are out there now who are listening and going, wow, I may not want to be Olympian and do 26 hours of training, thank you very much, per week, but I'd love to get out there on the skis. What would you recommend to them?
Yeah, I think, and whether it's skiing or another passion, is just find those passions, find what you love to do and do it. And for me, back when I think I was around 16, my mum gave me this bracelet and she had engraved in it, "Dream the impossible." And I've been wearing that every day since. And that's it, find those dreams, whether it's, you think it's impossible or not, find it. And if it's with your passion, just go for it. You really have nothing to lose. And the journey you have along the way is just going to be incredible. So find what you love what you do, and dream the impossible and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. And haven't you ever had a great ride? And it's only the beginning. You're in your mid-20s. There's a lot more decades for you to keep on journeying and enjoying that ride. I can't imagine where it's going to take you now. You've already travelled a large part of the world, been on some incredible experiences in the environment and also from what you're doing, but also your mindset and the way you've stretched your mindset and your body. It's just phenomenal, Casey. You are an absolute inspiration, and without a doubt you typify a wild and a fearless woman, someone who's getting out there, challenging themselves, pushing hard, resetting goals, and not only achieving goals, but smashing your goals out of the park and getting PBs. So it's been an absolute honour and an absolute pleasure having this time with you today. And I know that all the listeners who'll be listening going, wow, she is so inspirational, and that's what this is all about. It's about podcasts, helping us get up and get out of our chairs and say, you know what, whatever our dream is, whatever our passion is, even if it's a passion that's been lost, let's re-tap into those passions and get out there and start doing them. There's nothing holding us back other than ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, find opportunities where, where we can empower ourselves and empower, women collectively, I think that's one of the awesome things and some of my fondest memories are out there, just like shredding it with girls out on the snow. And, I think, let's bring ourselves together and go and kick goals and just go for it.
Absolutely. I love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. I love it. Shredding it out there with the girls. That's what we got to be doing more of. Yeah. And I agree. Women supporting women is so unbelievably powerful, and I love seeing it, and that's what this community is all about. And I love hearing that you're doing that as well. And we can all do it. Let's go and actually prop each other up. Let's go and inspire one another that we can be whatever we want to be and whoever we want to be and experience whatever we want to experience. We don't have to be male to be, the ones who are doing things and achieving things. We are our own entity, and we are our own, we have our own abilities, and we're all different, very unique. So yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's go and shred it up with the girls. I love it. Love it, don't you guys?
Yeah.
Even the guys are sitting here, you can't hear or see them, but they're going, yes! So it's really cool. Really cool.
Just remember the girls skied further than the guys on the last event of the Olympics. So if you need any more proof, there it is.
Exactly, and you got worse weather.
Yeah, it was worse weather, and we were out there skiing further. 2 kilometres, doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. There's no limitations, absolutely none. I love it. Love it. Well, I think we're going to hold on to that one for many, many decades to come, and we're never going to let the boys forget that, hey?
No, never.
Casey, it's been an absolute pleasure. I could keep talking for hours and hours and hours with you. I'm really looking forward to seeing where your journey takes you next, and looking forward to visiting Windy Corner one day. And I know that you've said to me, if anyone ever wants to pop in, that you're always there during winter and you'd love people to come and say hello, not to treat you like a stranger. And of course, I cannot express enough, like, I would love to see some more people supporting you as an individual, because I know how hard you're doing it. You're subsidising yourself, the training, or the 26 hours training, which means 26 hours you're not working and generating income. So if there's anyone out there listening, please reach out to Casey directly. You don't have to come through Wild and Fearless at all. Reach out to her on her social media platforms and say, hey, I'd love to help you. How can I help you? And it could be in any sort of form of sponsorship. It would be absolutely amazing. I'd love to see that for you.
Yeah, love any support. And yeah, please, if you are up in the Falls Creek area, just come up to the very end of the road. That's where you find Windy Corner, and come say hi. I'm always welcoming new people and excited to see people out on the trails whenever possible.
Yeah, and get out there on the skis, don't you reckon?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Come and enjoy the snow. Hopefully we're going to, fingers crossed, we're going to have a normal season this year. So come and enjoy it.
Yeah, bring it on, I reckon. Casey, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. You are definitely a wild and fearless woman, and looking forward to what's next for your big chapter.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and I love that yellow. Keep wearing the yellow. It's awesome. It suits you.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Hey legends, I hope you're really enjoying the show. We love bringing it to you. Please support us, subscribe, like all our social media platforms, and please reach out and donate through buymeacoffee.com/wild and fearless. We really appreciate it. Have an awesome day.